it, dude. Yeah! Good dude. Gym 365, this is the first place you started training? Coaching.
This is the first place I started coaching athletes in a big capacity.
Nice. So, Yo, in today's video, we're going to go over the bench press, and nothing annoys me more than when you see people online talking about bench pressing being bad for your shoulders or how they hurt themselves, and it may be the reason that people hurt themselves. Bench press may be the thing that they're doing when they hurt themselves, but bench press itself has nothing to do with it. It's a lot about the bar path and how you get down to your chest and how you're pressing out of the hole, or off of your chest, and how your shoulder is actually coming down, line of action on your elbows. You coach a ton of powerlifters and Olympic lifters. What's some of the common faults that you see in bar path?
Well, a lot of times it's because, you know, the shoulder has rotated forward. You know, it's you got the internal rotation, and you got the scapula has winged. And so there's an impingement into the anterior portion of the deltoid. So, you know, as long as you'll see when I set up that I take my shoulders and my scapula and I'm going to tuck it together, and then I'm going to tuck it down, and then it's going to leave a lot of room in the shoulder joint. It's the capsule. As long as you leave lots of room in that capsule, and you set the range of motion at something that's not, you know, too high a degree, you're not going to get hurt. But that's the key, is when you start flaring to press and you let your scapula wing up and out, then you have a problem.
Yeah, so we're gonna just build up to, we're at 225 right now. Mass is gonna be at 315. I'm gonna be hitting some triples. Just pay attention as we come down. We wanna think about the bar kind of coming down to our top ab. A lot of times you see people, because it's called a bench press and they think they're working their chest, the bar coming down to the middle of their chest. And when we see that, the elbows flare out, shoulder internally rotates, and you wanna think about actually coming down straight to your top ab, more towards your sternum. And that is where you're going to be able to keep
good.
That pressing is going to be in a much better position if you can keep this arm at a 90 degree here and straight up, versus when that elbow gets out or the line gets out of, or the elbow gets out of alignment. How many are you gonna hit at 315, dude?
3. I'll try 3. 2 to 3, let's say. One thing you'll notice is when you'll see me touch exactly what Anders was saying. We're gonna touch at the highest point, which is what I was telling you about as far as like limiting that range of motion. And then you'll see that I push back. I don't push straight up. I push back and then up. What that's doing is shortening. There is a shoulder extensor moment arm, which is like trying to pull you, you know, out of extension. It's trying to pull you down towards your hips, and like you're trying to get, because you're going to finish above your shoulders, so you have to get back there. So the quicker I can get there, I shorten that one, what's called a demand. I've limited that demand, which is called the shoulder flexor moment. So, all right.
Here we go. Good. Nice. So you have a little bit of a pause down at the bottom, and is that strictly just from powerlifting background and being comfortable there, or is there?
Yes. If you're gonna power, I recommend that you practice the way you're gonna play. Like, all it is adaptation. You're gonna get better at whatever you do.
Yeah.
So if you practice the pause, you'll be better at the pause. 'Cause a lot of people get used to just touch and go. Then they go to the competition, they have to pause. That freaks them out. I'm better off pausing.
How often do you see people, when they get the bar to their chest and have to make that pause, just lose that tension, and now all of a sudden they have nothing to be able to push out of, and they're kind of driving without a solid core and that back stability?
That's a very common fault. You know, you'll see people, they'll come down, they'll be tight, and then when they're pausing, they go loose. And so now you've lost all that stored energy. What could have been used is, as potential to kinetic energy is turned into zeros.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great point. Good.
The other thing people should be aware of, Travis was talking about locking those shoulders in and kind of rolling your shoulder back and down. You should really be able to feel almost like the entire top of your back on the bench that you're driving through. If your shoulders are rolled forward, you're not going to be able to feel a strong, stable back on the bench. So using a tactile cue where you can actually feel your entire thoracic spine and back musculature on the bench is going to let you know that you're in a good place and being able to maintain driving through the bench on the way up each time.
Right. You have two options in the bench too that we should point out. Is if I go wide, I'm basically taking the triceps out of the equation. Actually turn it into more of a bicep thing when they're super wide. But when I bring my hands in close, I take my chest, not out of it, but it's not there as much as it would be if I was wide. But now I've incorporated more of my triceps. So what should you do? Well, it depends on, do you have strong triceps? Do you have a strong chest? Or are you equal at both? If you're equal at both, you might want to take more of a neutral to where when the bar is on your chest, you have a vertical form. So to wrap that up, if I have a strong chest, weak triceps, you're probably going to get a bench press to where the forearm is going to be pointed out. If I have weak chest, strong triceps, forearm will be pointed in towards the body. And if I have equal, I'm just strong everywhere, pretty much straight up and down forearm. So I have a strong chest and a weak tricep. So I go wider.
There you go. One thing seeing you as well, I know you've spent a lot more time benching than I have. It's really easy for a lot of people to think that we're just pressing with our arms and our upper body, but all of this comes out of your feet and your lower body. Can you wrap on just what happens in your feet and your glutes just staying tight throughout the movement?
Yeah, I try to turn this into as much of a lower body movement as possible. And I'm going to initiate the press with a drive. I'm going to push back with my legs, which that energy has to go somewhere, which is through my hands. It would be the same thing if I punch somebody. The punch originates, with your hips and with your legs, and it ends with your arms. It's the same thing. Some people use less, but for me with long arms, it was a necessity that I had leg drive. It's good. It's good. It's a strong CrossFitter.
King of leg drive.
You don't use a lot of leg drive, do you?
Yeah,
You do?
I started, yeah. I used to use any, but now I use it pretty good.
That's one of my first athletes from this very gym. Seth, who now owns this gym, Gym 365 in Advance, Bermuda Run, I guess.
Yeah. Come check us out.
Here we go, last one.
This is the most I've been in a long time. This is good.
Let's go.
Good. Easy. There it is. So make sure, just a couple final points going over this. Make sure the line of action comes down to the top of your abs here, right towards your sternum. We don't want to see that bar coming up to our chest. When we get down, making sure that arm is vertical so we can press straight up. And as Travis was saying, you always want to be driving back on the bar to get it into the strongest pressing position. You want to just go over feet position.
Yeah.
And
You have two options. What you want to do is put your feet to wherever. You either want to pull them back under like I was doing to where I can drive back and my butt won't come up, or I can put my feet out in front of me and wider, like a wider stance. And you're gonna be pushing with your heels back. Same thing. Either way, I want to be able to have leg drive without my butt coming up. So those will be the keys. A few other keys would be squeeze the bar, pull it apart, and bend it. Will really help to also lock that scapula and the rotator cuff into a very good position. Once again, if I'm loose in that position, you're gonna have this, but if I bend it and pull it back, you see what happened. My shoulders will stay back in that nice tuck position.
We'll see you guys next week.